Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good morning to Dr. Shawal and my fellow friends. Today we are from Group 5 are going to present about Sustainable Development Goal number 5, which is gender equality, and the organisation we had chosen is Women's Aid Organisation WAO. First and foremost, the introduction. 1.1 Sustainable Development Goal, Gender Equality. According to Millennium Development Goals, gender equality and women's empowerment has been attained progressively. Nevertheless, every woman and girl are still receiving discrimination and violence. The discrimination received by them prove that sustainable development of gender equality is very crucial in order to ensure the peaceful and harmonious world. Women and girls should be treated fairly by providing them equal access to education, health, and other basic needs of rights. Sustainable Development Goal of Gender Equality consists of 9 targets. Firstly, it targets to end all discrimination in the world against women and girls. Secondly, it aims to eradicate all forms of violence against all women and girls in the public and private spheres. Thirdly, it focuses on eliminating all harmful practices such as the early child marriage and female genital mutilation. Fourthly, it aims to acknowledge and evaluate the unpaid care and domestic work through the provision of public services. Next, we are going to have a look on 1.2 Women's Aid Organisation WAO. As stated here is the logo of WAO. It has been established in 1982 as the first domestic violence shelter in Malaysia. Nowadays, in Malaysia, it is the largest domestic violence survivor service provider. It has a vision, which is it aims on designing a community that validates the principle of significant equality, where all women will get the chance of having their human rights across sectors. Meanwhile, its mission is to construct and encourage the protection, respect, and fulfillment of equal access and rights of women.
In November 2020, the Women's Aid Organisation and United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees worked collaboratively to hold a children's program for children from the Somali and Rohingya communities. The Children's Resilient Program was developed in response to community feedback. The participants of this program are the children refugees from the Somali and Rohingya communities. So there are around 74 children that took part in the entire program. So there are 3 goals to be achieved, which are the goal of the basic language course activity, which to ensure that the children will be able to better integrate into the community. Meanwhile, for the emotional resilience activity, the goal of the activity is for participants to recognize and comprehend their own feelings and emotions. Besides, it is to ensure that the children will be able to respect other people's feelings and emotions. This collaboration has been carried out with various learning methods. So for basic language course, the English vocabulary were teaching through a thematic approach. Meanwhile, Women's Aid Organisation decided to build emotional resilience in the children through a movie. The movie that has been chosen to be shown is Inside Out. On top of that, a music program that has been implemented to promote the traditional and culture of Malaysia in a unity drum circle activity. There are 3 activities that has been implemented, which are basic language course, emotional resilience, and unity drum circle. So for basic language course, a lot of colorful pictorial dictionary and interactive games are being used in order to help the children to understand better during the training sessions. Then, for emotional resilience, the movie that has been chosen is Inside Out. It gives impacts towards the children who watch this movie regarding to the importance of expressing the feelings among each other, most importantly with their parents. Lastly, for Unity Drum Circle, WAO has been implemented a music program to foster humanitarian values that transcend race, religion, and culture as a unity tool to foster better communal values. WAO has collaborated with the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees. One of the reasons for this collaboration is that UNHCR handles all aspects of refugee registration, documentation, and status determination. UNHCR works with the Malaysian government to manage refugee protection, such as preventing arrest and detention and increasing self-sufficiency, including through access to legal work. Next, we are going to have a look on advocating for change. Women's Aid Organization enforces advocating for change through the campaign, conducts research, and engages with policymakers and the general public in order to end gender-based violence and achieve gender equality in Malaysia. This implementation was inspired by women's lived experiences. This program aimed in improving public policies which related to this issue. This campaign resulted in increased federal funding to combat this domestic violence, the creation of 2 cabinet papers, and the adoption of 2 government policy commitments. So, the first policy is make stalking as a crime. Stalking is harmful and frequently precedes more serious harm, and there are many countries are enacting anti-stalking legislation. Women's Aid Organization work with the new government in 2020 to ensure the work of the community was continued, including working with members of parliament to submit their riot questions, directly engaging the government and public advocacy. The organization also launched a public pressure campaign against stalking, including a petition and media coverage. On 34th August 2020, the Anti-Stalking Law of Amendments to the Penal Code and Criminal Procedure Code was tabled for first reading in the Parliament. Datuk Mas Amirah, who is the Deputy Minister in the Prime Minister's Department in charge of Parliament and Law, who are responsible for table the bills in the Parliament. So the next agenda for this program is Sexual Harassment Bill. Women's Aid Organization, along with other women's rights organizations, continued to collaborate with the Ministry of Women, Family and Community Development to introduce a sexual harassment bill. In 2019, the Ministry formed the Sexual Harassment Bill Special Projects Team, which included of government agencies, academics and non-governmental organizations, including the Women's Aid Organizations, which to prepare draft legislation. So, COVID-19 and the Movement Control Order have exacerbated sexual harassment concerns, including digital harassment and difficulties in seeking help. The organization has worked with members of parliament to submit their riot questions, directly engage the government and engage the public in 2020 to ensure bill's continuation. The government has agreed to put bill on hold.
The Women Aid Organization has formed a collaboration with One Stop Crisis Centre, OSCC and Mercy Malaysia to assist victims of abuse via the COVID-19 care and support hotline. The One Stop Crisis Centre is a service that the Emergency and Trauma Department provides in all health hospitals in Malaysia since 1996. In One Stop Crisis Centre OSCC, there are various cases related to abuse of women and children, domestic violence and exploitation of adults and children. Mercy Malaysia is an international non-governmental organisation NGO established on 16 September 1999. Relief programs such as the Women Aid Organization's Aftercare and Assistance Program is open 24 hours a day and provided in all government general hospital in Malaysia. The number of attendees is mostly from victims of domestic abuse, victims of rape among women and children. This service accepts different types of victims regardless of age, because victims of abuse happen regardless of whether they are children or adult women. The main goal of the One Stop Crisis Centre OSCC is to provide you with a safe place to protect the suspect from further harm, examine and treat the victim's injury problems, assist in the police investigation and safely trace the victim problem until you get help from the Department Welfare of the community if the victim's condition require it. The OSCC and Mercy Malaysia goals are the same, which is the priority related to health assistance, thus making it easier for them to cooperate with each other. The collaboration between WAO and Mercy Malaysia in setting up a psychosocial support hotline for COVID-19 can help more high potential abuse victims during the MCO. WAO reported that 44% of WAO hotline calls and WhatsApp types of questions were received between February and March 2020. However, there has been an increase since April with a total of 264 calls and inquiries received. statistics show a 111.2% increase from the 125 calls received at the beginning of February. Other than that, the methods of implementation is by provide advice, explore the victim's option, and schedule face-to-face counseling session with the victim of abuse. Furthermore, doctors at OSCC have provided all medical care for any harm incurred by victims of abuse, as well as assisting victims in collecting and providing medical evidence for use in court. Lastly, operation or facilitators involved is the Mercy Malaysia has more than 500 active volunteer teams made up of expert medical teams, allied health teams and industry experts that will be sent to carry out humanitarian aid mission both in Malaysia and around the world. The Women Aid Organisation has appointed 14 support officers to manage online calls in this program, as well as several other staff who are always ready with the expectation of increased calls and requests for help with domestic violence from time to time. 19 psychosocial volunteers from Muslim Malaysia, as well as 10 counsellors from the Ministry of Health who will assist in the operation of the program hotline. The next program is Women Aid Organisation provides training program on human rights of women. In collaboration with International Women Rights Watch, Asia Pacific, WAO held a 3-day training program for various NGOs to gain knowledge about women's rights. It is important that we can understand women's fundamental rights in order to determine their rights and ensure their position. The purpose of this program is to teach a more in-depth understanding of sex and gender equality and even treatment and women's rights. Furthermore, to create awareness about the legal information that promotes or hinders women's rights. Second, in this program, NGOs learn about the role of law and women's rights advocacy. The law is a crucial matter throughout the country. Lastly, there is a conference on the abolition of all forms of gender discrimination. Among the examples are wage disparities between men and women, as well as fewer job opportunities for women. The last program is Women Aid Organisation Reboot, the Child Care Centre collaboration with Rehda Youth, the Real Estate and Housing Developers Association. Rehda is an association that was established in May 1970, known as the Malaysia Housing Developers Association (HDA). As the foremost representative body of private real estate developers, Rehda is a widely respected group in both the public and private sector. First, the reconstruction of the welfare home took a long time because of the COVID-19 pandemic. The WAO Child Care Centre, on the other hand, was reconstructed after the premise burned down 5 years ago. This Child Care Centre was rebuilt by Rehda Youth, the Real Estate and Housing Developers Association Youth, and was complete in September thanks to the involvement of several partner organisations. The number of attendees can accommodate more than 20 children than the previous Child Care Centre. The method of the implementation according to care reform, Rehda wished to undertake a significant corporate social responsibility initiative. As an outcome, Rehda is actively seeking suppliers and collaborators to channel resources to assist in the construction of a comfortable home for those who are less fortunate because of case of abuse or domestic violence. Next, the latest Child Care Centre has been constructed and has been labelled as Malaysia's first platinum grade green building, as well as being able to serve as a safe place for kids and those who have been victims of domestic violence. The new Child Care Centre was built with green design principles that align with Rehda's goal of getting a lot of love and nurturing homes for children that do not feel like a shelter for troubled youth. The activities provided at Child Care Centre is provide psychiatric treatment and counselling on site in a comfortable and secure environment. Lastly, the operation of facilitators involved, which is WAO collaborate with Rehda to rewrite the plan for a Child Care Centre house.
Assalamualaikum, my name is NORISA binti MUSA. Next, I'm going to be present to you about the benefits of the program to Sustainable Development Goals. Sustainable Development Goals aim to enhance the quality of life for everyone and is founded on the belief that environmental and economic are interconnected. Sustainable practice may aid in the prevention of natural resources, the mitigation and adaptation to climate change, and the promotion of biodiversity. Sustainability also may help create community ties, enhance the quality of life, and inspire hope for a brighter future. So, there are 4 benefits of this program. First, empower and strengthen women power. In order for women to restart their life in safety, security, productivity, and health, sustainable development must first empower and strengthen them. According to the goals number 5, it said that not only is gender equality a basic human right, it also forms the basis for a society that is stable, affluent, and sustainable. The situation has become even more dire as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic social and economic effect. Many aspects of the development are still lagging, such as the amount of time spent on unpaid caregiving and household duties, decisions on sexual and reproductive health, and gender-responsive budgeting. Violence against women is still pervasive. In spite of their leadership in the COVID-19 response, women still lag behind males in obtaining the position of authority that they merit. By placing women at the front of economies, it will lead to better and more sustainable for everybody, enable a quicker recovery, and put the world back on the track to fulfill the Sustainable Development Goals. Therefore, offer a chance for dramatic, constructive action to address long-standing disparities in a variety of aspects of women's life and create a more equitable and resilient society. The second benefit is education support. According to the goals number 4, it guarantees inclusive and equitable quality education in order to encourage opportunities for lifelong learning for everyone. In fact, it also aims to guarantee that by 2030, all women and men have equal access to inexpensive and high-quality technical, vocational, and tertiary education, including higher education. In order to support a whole institution approach to policymaking, Education Sustainable Development Goals has to be integrated into the curriculum in an interdisciplinary and comprehensive way. In reality, it is important to encourage critical thinking, problem solving, and action, since this skill may help people to feel more confident while facing the difficulties of sustainable development. In fact, one of the development products with the best long-term returns on investment is education. Therefore, ensuring that everyone has access to high-quality education, it is essential to fostering global peace and prosperity. It is also will maintain their health, find employment, and promote tolerance with the information and skills that education has provided. Next, economic sustainability. Economic sustainability can be characterized as an integral aspect of sustainability in order to protect and preserve resources such as human and material to generate long-term sustainable values via optimum use, recovery, and also recycle. In other words, we must protect limited natural resources in order to meet the requirement of future generations. To achieve economic sustainability, our economy and existing way of life must be changed. We must be more efficient in our use of existing resources, discover new methods to use underutilized resources, and lower our consumption in the process. The public sector will encourage jobs and industry that contribute to a healthier environment and greater feeling of well-being. By boosting resources efficiency, expanding access to jobs and services, and developing new work possibilities, these solutions are intended to increase earning and minimize household expenditure. Thus, it can help communities generate employment and put people on the path to a future with less poverty and greater wages. It is essential to balance 3 key factors, which is economic growth, social inclusion, and environmental preservation. Therefore, it must be committed to eradicate poverty and hunger in all dimensions and ensure all humans may realize their full potential in dignity, equality, and also healthy environment. And the last benefit of this program is emotional resilience. Physical sustainability relates to both the material consumption and the product's lifetime. Air pollution, for example, is linking to the mental disease including depression, dementia, anxiety, and suicide is rapidly mounting. Harsh lighting and loud sound are two more environmental elements that might affect our mood. It might cause anxiety or agitation, and being in chilly, gloomy places that can make you feel uninspired, particularly during the winter month. Because emotional growth includes learning what feelings and emotions are, comprehending how and why they occur, identify our own feelings as well as those of others, and establish appropriate coping mechanism for this feeling, it is crucial for us to have control over our emotion. According to that, resilience may aid shielding individuals against variety of mental health issues such as depression. As a result, emotional resilience may reduce the effect and the elements like bullying and past trauma that may raise likelihood health disorder. In fact, it also may adjust to challenging circumstances and handle life's up and down. Although resilience may not take away stress or make life's challenge to go away, it does enable individuals to confront, accept, challenge, persevere through hardship and go with their life.
Next, we're gonna move to the suggestion for the improvement of the program. First and foremost, we need to review the sexual harassment bill. It is because sexual harassment bill is very important in protecting both men and women from sexual harassment. Therefore, this program needs to be improved so that the safety and dignity of the victim is protected. So, Women's Aid Organization, we presented a memorandum to amend the bill, especially in terms of proper defense and preventive mechanism to protect victims of sexual harassment. Some of the critical points stated in the memorandum are the organization's duty to prevent and address sexual harassment. The task of the organization is a basic component that needs to be in the bill so that the organization is more responsible in preventing sexual harassment from happening. This is because sexual harassment can happen anywhere around us. Hence, preventing measures such as mandating basic training on sexual harassment should be placed in the bill as a responsibility that must be taken by employers, universities, or external parties. In addition, provision on victimization. Based on the memorandum in Section A, Clause 4, no person can be a victim of another person or any person associated with that person in relation to any act of sexual harassment. Persecution occurs when the victim is treated badly when making a complaint. This will cause the survivor to be traumatized and afraid to make a report as a result of the treatment received by them. Therefore, in the sexual harassment bill, there should be a law that can be used to protect victims or complainants so that they can report the sexual harassment they are facing without having to be afraid of being threatened by the offender. Furthermore, they need to improve the stalking policy. This is because the law under the Communications and Multimedia Act currently only focuses on prohibiting the dissemination of offensive feelings, while the Penal Code only covers statements related to race, religion, and threats. So, it can be seen that it is not fair and equal because it does not cover all of the scope related to stalking issues. This bill is important because if it is not carried out properly, it will seriously affect the well-being and safety of the victims. There was a case on 14 April 2022 where a woman was stabbed to death by a man who was her own boyfriend. Before the incident, the victim has made many police reports because the man had stalked and broken into his house. The most recent case committed by the man was a month before his murder. It can be seen that even if the victim has made a police report before, there is no law that can protect his feet. Supposedly, when a police report has been made by the victim, the police should help the victim by obtaining a protection order because the act of stalking is included in a criminal case. If early steps are taken, of course it saves the victim's life. Unfortunately, the Malaysian government is still delaying this critical law reform. This policy is particularly disappointing for women because of the lack of protection measures against stalking that women can use. This is very worrying and dangerous because most victims, especially women, are afraid to report the incident because for them it is not an offence punishable by law. Therefore, the anti-stalking bill needs to be improved because it is a proactive and effective measure in protecting every Malaysian, especially for victims of domestic violence. Last but not least, they need to provide wider protection for the victim of domestic violence. The authorities can help victims in forming a security plan. This safety plan can be categorized as one of the important components in if the violence happens against and the victim wants to leave the situation. This is because victims who leave their abusive partner will be more at risk of being killed by the abuser. So by having this safety plan, they can evaluate the best course of actions before deciding to leave the place where they were abused. Also, when they are facing domestic violence, most victims are unable to make a rational decision because they are in the state of trauma and fear. Therefore, practicing making a plan can assist them in visualizing the steps that need to be taken, as well as to prepare them physically and mentally to do so. This safety plan should be prepared as soon as the victim reports or asks for advice from a counselor or secretaries that she is dealing with the problem of domestic violence. Sometimes there are victims who still want to forgive their husbands and protect their marriage, so the possibility of them being abused again is very high. Therefore, things like a safe place to go in an emergency or a code word to warn family or friends that she is in need of help should be provided.
Last but not least, the conclusion. In conclusion, this clearly indicates that the Sustainable Development Goals (SDGs) has already outlined a very ambitious and strategic planning, which can underpin the raising issue of gender inequality by acknowledging the connection of gender equality and development. This endeavours to protect the security of everyone's rights of having equality, including to end the violence against women, economic empowerment, and women's leadership and political participation. Moreover, an organisation named Women's Aid Organisation (WAO) had been chosen to be referred as the organisation that practices this SDG throughout its programs. A plethora of programs has been implemented in order to prevent any gender inequality issue from getting worse as well. For example, the Program of Children's Resilience Program, which held in November 2020 under the collaboration with UNHCR and many more. That's all from us. Thank you.